Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of the Hash It Out Show. I am your host, JB, your sports guy. I'm joined by my co-host that you can catch on CrescentCitySports.com, the one, the only VK Jones. VK, what's going on?
What's going on, people? Appreciate y'all joining us tonight. Tag, share, and subscribe to the Hash It Out Show on both JB your Sports Guy and Vashawn K. Jones. We appreciate you joining us. We're continuing Legends Month. We got two big more interviews this week, as we most likely are closing out Legends Month, and coming up in the next couple of weeks, we're gonna start getting into the high school football season with a whole bunch of previews from experts all over the state of Louisiana. And also, we're going to get ready for football season in the NFL and college as well. So we got a lot about to be lined up coming up here through the Hash It Out Show. So we appreciate you joining us tonight. We got a very special guest, as we got something. We got another LSU legend in the building. Jared, go ahead and introduce our guest.
That's right. We have another LSU legend in the building. This guy here was phenomenal in his 4 years that he played at LSU. You could say one of the catalysts that got LSU up to where they are now, that put them by putting him on the map. Ladies and gentlemen, the former quarterback of the LSU Tigers and the O.P.W Walker Chargers, the one, the only Herb Tyler. Herb Tyler, what's going on, man? Long time, my brother.
Man, that's right. What's good, man? How y'all doing, man? I'm so blessed to be here, man. You guys have no idea how excited I am, man. I was telling my wife earlier. She was like, "Who you doing this show with?" And I said, "Look, it's ESPN. They work for Fox. They work for everybody. That's all the top brands, and they're the best. That's all you need to know." And I said, "They're West Bank soldiers for life." So that's where we at, man. I love you guys, man. Thank y'all for having me.
Man,
We
thank
definitely
you, man. Thank you
appreciate
for
it,
joining
man.
us. Definitely. I need to know this, man, because the last time, we were all together, it was on VK's show at the barbershop,
Yep,
and we talked
yep,
about
yep.
when Dak Prescott was coming to town and y'all picked LSU, and I sat there and said, no, I think Dak and them going to win this game. You still mad at me about that?
No, man. Look, I'm gonna say this. First of all, he's a Louisiana cat, so I get it. I'm down for it, and I'm still upset with Les Miles for not recruiting him as a quarterback and trying to bring him in as a tight end or DN or whatever he was trying to do. But at the end of the day, man, look, Dak is who he is, man, and you made the right pick. But I'm never gonna pick against my Tigers.
I
I
know.
don't care what it looked like. I don't really care. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna pick my Tigers to win because it's always an opportunity for a good upset.
I want to ask you, of course, you played at O.P.W Walker,
Yep.
and you decided to go to LSU, recruited by Coach Jerry Donardo, but I want to know, what was it about LSU that you said, I got to go here?
Man, that's a good question. So, if long story short, I'm not gonna go into the whole story about it all, but what I will say is, I just remember, so LSU came in the picture late. They came in December when Jared DiNardo was announced the head coach. So they came in December, and obviously that February coming up was when you had to commit or sign your letter of intent, shall I say? And it was between LSU, Tulane, Oregon State, and Oklahoma State is what it was down to for me. Um, and I really enjoyed Oklahoma State, and I really enjoyed Tulane. I loved Buddy Stevens at the time, and man, and I was literally this close to going to Tulane, and my dad said, um, "Son, you're gonna get out of the city. So I don't care where you go, but you're gonna get out of the city." So my dad really made the decision for me. If it were up to him, I probably would have been at Oregon State. He wanted me to go as far away as possible. But I ended up saying, you know what, I'm gonna go away, but still be at home at the same time, which was LSU. And I just remember Eddie Kennison running back a 99-yard punt return that was just magnificent. And I said, man, I think I really love those uniforms. That purple and gold looks good on me. I remember when I was wearing that car, and it could be a really good place for me. And they was recruiting me as a quarterback, and so I really think that is really my father who actually was pushing me to get out of the city, but not go too far away. In my mind, that's where I would wanted to go, but that's the reason why. So that's why LSU, and they really recruited me hard. I will say that Coach Watts and Coach. Oh man, I'm gonna be. I'm drawing a blank, but the defensive line coach at the time, I can't remember his name. I'm gonna remember 10 minutes from now, but they were really recruiting me hard, and I really enjoyed it. So,
Most freshmen don't play pretty much their freshman year. You got to play. Unfortunate injury to quarterback Jamie Howard at the
yep.
time. He got injured, and then you got thrusted in. What were your thoughts when you got the call?
So the good thing about it was it wasn't really thrusted in. Let me say that. So it was a crazy scenario, the whole situation, right? When I got in there, I was literally number eighth or ninth on the depth chart at quarterback, and they actually at some point during camp when everybody came in, they actually asked me to say, "Hey, look, we don't know if the quarterback thing is going to work out for you," just because I wasn't getting any reps. It wasn't that they didn't know what I could do, but it was like, well, maybe you ought to consider moving to DB. And I said, well, coach, I'm gonna go ahead and take this knee and learn from these guys and see what this quarterback thing is all about, right? And so that was in camp. And so and when the season came, I was playing scout team quarterback, and the scout team quarterback gets to play against the number ones on defense,
Right.
and you're running and mimicking whoever those particular players was on the opposite team, right? And I was just literally lighting up that number one defense every week. And I was winning scout team player of the week every week. It was me, Larry Foster, and I think Rondell Mealy won it 1 or 2 times.
Okay.
So everybody from the city, right? So I'm balling, and I just remember Gabe Northern and a couple other the older fellas like, man, look, young buck, you got to slow it down a little bit. And in my mind, I'm thinking, nah, bro, you already have a job. I'm trying to get one. So that's kind of where I was at the moment. And so, with that being said, that kind of helped me really understand the speed of the game because playing against the number ones. But it really wasn't because it was SEC, but it was practice. It wasn't really, playing the game. And so, but what I did though, I paid attention in the classroom whenever we were in the film room, right? And so I understood the offense and I knew how to read, check with me's at the line. I understood the defenses. I understood what our playbook was all about and how it was really geared toward the running back with a fullback in the system, and we isoing and we doing these different things. And then the passing game was all about the tight end, incorporating the tight end and reading from inside out. So I understood all of that stuff. And so when the time came, so Jamie got hurt. Melvin came in. Melvin played one game against Kentucky. He was starting against Kentucky, and then I was like the quote unquote the backup. And we wasn't doing too well against Kentucky, and the coach was about to bring me in. Then he said, "Nah, he kind of slow it down. Nah, we're not gonna do that." So Jamie came back. He played one more game, and then I was actually the backup for Jamie the second game when he came back or whatever it was. And he actually got hurt again against Alabama, and they actually threw me in there against Alabama like the last 2 minutes of the game, and there was only like 3 plays or 2 plays I played, and I did not do anything. No one remembers those plays, only I do. And so the following week, the coaches were so smart about it. They'll say, "Okay, we're gonna name you the starting quarterback for the week." And so that gave me a week to prepare. And then what happened was I already had gained the trust of the older guys, the seniors and the juniors on the team. And then moving into that position at that point in time, it really was exciting for me to see the camaraderie, the support, the love that those guys gave me, and that's what actually catapulted me to having the confidence of saying, well, you know what, I actually belong here. Now, the game that was a North Texas game, which was not a SEC game, but it was still major Division I college football, and so had an outstanding game. I don't remember the stats, but it was pretty good. I think I threw like 2 or 3 touchdowns, ran one or something like that. And then the following week, I think was Ole Miss, which was the SEC game, and I just remember being in that game, feeling the same exact way because I think we really put it on, and we won 38-12 or something crazy like that. But it was the support, the love, the camaraderie, the understanding that I was a young guy, but everybody wrapped their arms around me, and it was really really cool to see that.
I know team comes first in your mind,
Yep.
but with that being said, you did make the All SEC freshman team. How was that?
Yep. I did. Yes. Yes. That was amazing. I look back on that, and not only I don't remember making that, I don't remember any of that, but you're absolutely correct. So when you jog those little memories like that, to me that was special. Man, I went 4-0 that year. Was if we don't go, so I went 4-0, went 3-0 during the regular season. If we don't win those 3 games, we don't actually go to the bowl game. So we needed to win 3 games to get to 6 wins that season, and we ended up doing that. And then the crazy part about that and how things come full circle, we ended up playing Nick Saban and the Michigan State Spartans in the Independence Bowl that year. And it's just crazy how you I was one of 3, I think, freshmen that actually beat Nick Saban as a head coach. So that's pretty cool.
It's pretty cool. You guys did play Michigan State in the Independence Bowl and defeated them.
Yep.
Going into your sophomore year, there is this game that happened, and there's a lot of big games that happened in your career that you were involved in. But this one, your sophomore year, I remember watching it on TV.
Okay.
You guys played Auburn, but I don't know if you could see from where you were on the field, behind the stadium, the barn was on fire.
Yes.
It burnt to the ground, and the game is called the Barn Burner Game. You guys won 19-15 at Auburn. Talk about that game and the barn catching on fire.
Yeah, man. So that was one of my first really big SEC games that I ever got an opportunity to play in, and it was away too. And the crazy part about that, and guys who know me, who's played with me, who understand the type of person that I am, I'm laser focused when it comes to all of this stuff, right? So I literally had no idea this was going on. And the funny part about it is LSU and Auburn are always literally the exact same mirror team of each other. Literally every year we played them, it could have went anyway, no matter what. And so it is still that today, like literally still that today. And so we're in this game, and I'm just focused because they got Tequila Spikes on the other side. Marquez Houston. I mean, some other guys over. I mean, Bray at cornerback. These guys were balling. I'm talking about Auburn always had a front seven and some DBs that's gonna come and get you. And so I'm laser focused on that, and I'm like, man, we got to win this game. Rayon Hill, my dog Rayon made some plays in that game too, all day, and all day Ray baby, and so I just remember being in that and just playing my game and making sure we would come out on top and be a winner in that game. And I remember going in the locker room and having I guess the interview with ESPN or whoever it was, and the guy was like, "So what do you think about the fire?" And I'm like, "What fire? What are you talking about?" I had no idea what he was talking about. And so I didn't know anything about it until after the game, until he told me all about it. And it was amazing to see that stuff on ESPN late on that night.
That was quite a sight to watch the game go on, and there's a fire right behind the stadium, which was just ironic.
Yeah.
You guys,
and it was behind us. So I didn't, and I'm not looking back and up at the same time. I'm just, I'm focused. And I'm not trying not to mess up, bro. At the end of the day, I'm trying to get these kids, not the kids, but get our team in the right situation, keep them in the right situation, and ball out all at the same time,
Yep. You guys finished with a 10-2 record, finished number 12 in the nation.
Yes.
You guys defeated Clemson in the Peach Bowl, where you were the MVP.
Yep.
Talk about the expectations you guys had going into your junior year.
So coming off that 10-2 win was a huge deal because LSU hadn't come close to 10 wins in the previous 8 seasons, if you will. And so we had a lot of young players coming back. We had some guys that we thought were really going to be excellent for us. And going into that junior year, we felt like could be the year. And we kind of got, we were really focused that year too. We ended up in my junior year, we ended up going 9-3, I think it was.
Yeah.
And we lost some crucial games that we could have won. Literally, it could have been a good season for us. One of them though was bad, which was that Notre Dame game. And that Notre Dame game at LSU was killer in my junior year. But the expectations going into my junior year were really lofty expectations. And we were thinking we would at least win 11 to 12 games really that year and be in a major bowl. And we ended up getting snubbed for a decent bowl anyway, too, that year. We went 9-3. We thought we should have going to a little bit bigger bowl than the Independence Bowl, but we were able to have a rematch with Notre Dame that season or that bowl game, and then we just we beat them 27-9 or something like that. We really put it on. And Rondell Mealy had almost 300 yards rushing that night and just did a phenomenal job that night. So, but going into that junior year was crazy, but even going into my senior year was even crazier. But it was an awesome experience that junior year, because even though we didn't meet our goals, we still had fun doing what we did, and I don't ever see any of that being I guess a disappointment or a non-successful season or any of that, because everybody is working just as hard to try to be great. And you win some, you lose some. That builds your character, and it brings you to a place of understanding what life is all about after all that stuff is done and over with.
Now I gotta ask you about the game against #1 Florida.
Yes, sir.
At LSU, still one of the biggest wins of all time in
Yep.
that stadium.
Yep.
Talk about that game, man, because I was watching that game at my grandmother's house. I can never forget that. And man, did y'all put on a show that night?
Yeah, man. Look, I tell people all the time that's one of those games where you're just in the moment. It's something magical that's happening. And I've had a few of those games, and that game in particular was cool because the week leading up to that game, Jared Donato did something that he never did before. And that thing, what he did was he pulled back on our practice schedule. We used to practice for like what we call 36 periods or whatever. It's every period is a 5-minute type of period, if you will. And so he pulled back, and I think we ended up doing like 26. So he took 10 periods away. And then we were only in shoulder pads. And then they came up with this plan on defense that I thought was just ingenious, which was that what we call the Chinese bandit. And that Chinese bandit defense was essentially you had your starters in, whoever you deem were your starters, and even in any given series, you could take and put your second team guys in there and have those guys rush. And so you had a fresh set of legs every time that the ball was snapped. And that really made a difference because you had people like Johnny Mitchell, Theo Williams, all these West Bank boys out there balling and making plays, Rayon Hill out there balling, getting interceptions. And so it was one of those deals where, man, it didn't matter who it was. Cedric Donaldson making plays, interceptions, Tommy Banks running touchdowns, Kevin catching option pitches and making things happen, Abram Booty catching the ball.
Mm-hmm.
And it was one of those magical nights that no one could stop and no one seen coming either, especially Steve Spurrier. And he was throwing that visor down a few times. And look, those option plays that we were running were all check with me's at the line. They were all other plays that was called in the huddle, but seeing and understanding and reading the defense and how they were playing us, it was a red check, check, red 28, check, red 29, or red 18, red 19, whichever one it was, whichever we called at the time at the line of scrimmage, it was all check me, block down, pitch off the end. If he ain't there, take it. You know what I'm saying? And so that was a beautiful thing about that. A lot of people don't understand those plays weren't called at the line in a huddle. They were check with me's at the line of scrimmage and just a complete audible at the line of scrimmage for me. So that was pretty cool, man. That was a fun night. Everybody rushed the field. I still don't know where my helmet is to this day. It's gone. Somebody has it somewhere. So it was great. Rest in peace to Adrian Wojciechowski, I think is his name, the tall guy that was at ESPN. He was trying to get an interview with me and Kevin, and it just wouldn't happen. Too many people were around there. You couldn't hear a thing. So it was awesome.
Talk about the Independence Bowl against Notre Dame that year, because they beat y'all early in the year.
Yep.
What's the mindset of going into that game against them?
So the first game, just so you know, when they came out there, it looked like they had every offensive lineman they had looked like they were 7'6". And they looked like when I was playing on the offensive side and looking at their defense, they seemed to have like 55 people out there playing defense at whatever given time. It just looked really crazy. It was one of those games where it just was completely off. And just fun fact about me, I'm a huge Notre Dame fan. I always wanted to play at Notre Dame. I wanted to be the next Tony Rice. I wanted be coached by Coach Lou Holtz. So it was something special for those guys to come to LSU and me play against them. And I just stunk the field up personally. I think I did anyway, and I know I did. But that second game in the bowl game was like, that ain't happening no more. So one of the things we did different was we actually switched up our game plan going into that game, and we decided to do some down blocking and some pulling around, and then have a bunch of counters coming, and those counters was killing them, and they wasn't ready for it. And then we also had the speed option on them that they wasn't ready for either. So we didn't go into that first game like that. And so I think everybody on our team, we realized we was not an inferior team to them. We just didn't play well that first game, and then this second game, that wasn't going to happen like that. And so we all made it a point to ensure that we let the Notre Dame Fighting Irish know that who they were really playing against was the true LSU Tigers in that Independence Bowl game that night.
I'm gonna ask you this question, and I'm passing it to VK.
Yep.
Your senior year, it did not go as expected, I could say. LSU 4-7, and you also got injured in your second to last game before playing Arkansas. Talk about that year for a second.
So that year was awesome. I'll be honest with you, it was one of my greatest years. So it was the best year statistically for me at LSU, and that year was pretty cool because I was one, and former players know this. When you are at the peak of your athletic ability, and I felt like mentally, emotionally, and physically, I was at the peak of what I could do. I was at least flirting with the peak of that, and I just felt like just really, really light on my feet. Felt really strong. I felt really fast, quick. I felt really smart, intuitive, and I understood the whole game and our game plan and everything we wanted to a T. So I knew what everybody was doing, and going into that game, man. That season, I think we ended up starting that season out like 4-0 or 3-0 or something like that, going into the Florida game, and we were literally, I think, like number 8 in the country going into that Florida game before we went to Florida. I think, we went to Florida and we played them, and they beat us on the old John Curtis play, the old swinging gate. You know what I'm saying? They got us on that, man, and I wish they would have never ran that play, but they ended up beating us like 21-14 or something like that. It was like a 7-point loss that we had, and then we just never could come back from that. And one of the reasons I think was that, so we changed defensive coordinators going into my senior year, and we ended up getting Lou Tepper, who brought a Big 12, I think, not sorry, Big 12, but Big 10 or Big East or whatever it was at the time when he was at Illinois. He brought that defense down, and he tried to have like linebackers covering receivers. That ain't gonna ever happen in the SEC at all. And it was more of a hit and react defense versus what we've been accustomed to. And everybody that was recruited was more attacking style defensive players. And so I think that really kind of allowed for us not to be as successful as we should have been, because we were putting up 35, 36 points a game, but we were giving 36, 37 points up a game. So we were losing every game by 3 points at the max, 6 points at the max. And so we were really excited about that year. That should have been a year we should have really been vying for a championship or being in the hunt really late. But we never could, I guess, account for or adjust to that new defensive scheme that we ended up doing. But I will say this: it was a very fun year for me statistically. I really enjoyed it. We played against some really great competition. I was SEC Player of the Week 2 or 3 times. Once against Auburn, I think, and then really close against Georgia when we played Quincy Carter here at LSU, which was a fun game. We lost to Alabama and like with seconds to go. It was crazy, man. It was so much fun, at the same time heartbreaking, and but still just a memory that I won't ever forget, and I won't ever take that for granted.
Can you hear VK? Her?
No, I think he's on mute.
Hold on. All right. We good. My bad. I forgot the mic is off. Look, it's good to have you on the show, man. We appreciate you taking the time out to join us. I gotta, looking back to your years in LSU, I definitely remember the Florida LSU game. I never forget that game. I still, my thing was when you was playing and everything, I was saying, when are we gonna see the Herb Tyler from O.P.W Walker? That's the biggest thing I was thinking. When we gonna see it? And it came to the Florida game. I was like, that's him. That's him. That's it right there. And it was so exciting that night, especially for what you did and the team itself, what they did to
Yes, sir.
upset Florida. I mean, storming the field and stuff. That was an exciting night. But besides all that, I want to ask you this first of all about some of your teammates for
Yes, sir.
LSU.
Okay.
You got those two running backs. And all I'm gonna tell you is this. I was thinking the weapons you got, you could win the national championship in your senior year. Cecil the Diesel Collins and also Kevin Falk. How much pressure they took off of you.
So I can't start off right there. I gotta start off from the very beginning. So you had in my freshman year, 1995, you had Kevin Falk, and you had Kendall Cleveland. So I don't know if you remember, but it was Thunder and Lightning.
Mm-hmm.
Him and
Yeah.
Kendall was just killing it. And so I can't leave Cleve out of that. Now you come back and fast forward to '96, you sprinkle in a little Rondell Mealy in that thing.
See,
So now,
you're right. You're
yeah,
right.
see what
I
I'm going at?
forgot.
So
I forgot.
there you go. Then you come in and you put a monster in there and Cecil Collins. So we got Kendall Cleveland, Rondell Mealy, Kevin Fogg, and Cecil Collins. Man, let me tell you right now. You know how crazy that was? That was literally the best set of running backs I've ever played with and seen in my entire life. Only because I knew who they were. And I knew they all brought a little something different to the team. And the pressure that they took off of me was immense because one, our offense didn't really require me to do a lot, right? It required me to be to be not as they call it a facilitator, but it's more of a more of a head coach on the field, right? It's putting everybody in the right situations, making sure that those guys up front know who they're blocking and which way they need to go, and then these guys behind me just turn around and hand the ball off. So it was really a very fortunate situation for me to have those types of running backs behind me. And I wasn't too shabby with the ball myself now, VK. So I want to make sure that's known now. And so what we used to do, the running joke, and still is today, is if they know an option play is being called, there ain't no pitching happening. Every now and then they might get a pitch, but I'm about to tuck this thing and I'm gonna show you that old Herb teasing now. I'm off the easy. Don't forget that now. But
Right,
but
right.
no, man, I was actually we hang out every now and then. Kevin, Rondell, Cleve, Skinner, Anthony Skinner. I don't know if you remember Skinner, but he played fullback for us. He was Dalton his nephew. He played fullback for us for 2 years. And so, but those guys, we still hang out today. I love them forever. Always my brothers, and I can't wait to. I brag on any of them at any chance and moment that I get.
You got that. You look at those running backs there. You kind of had a little bit of a renaissance years and years later, and I believe, and I'm trying to get it right. Was it under Les Miles? They had all them backs with Justin Vincent, Richard
Yeah,
Murphy, all the four backs, and it's like it kind of reminisce at the time when you was there with all those backs you mentioned just now. And I remember that because I'm like, I have never seen a group of running backs like that since then. I
yeah,
mean, different type. I have never seen a running back core like that since then because it's different type of backs, and it was crazy. You got a speed back, you got a
yep,
power back, you got a person that gonna get short yardage, and you got a person gonna do it all.
yeah. And the crazy part about it, any one of them could have took it the distance. To be honest with you. And it's just how did they do that, right? Because Kev was that guy that's gonna give you a little shake and bake, right? Rondell was just fluid like water, so he just making he's not really cutting. It's more like a lean in with it. And then Cecil was just I see the hole and I'm gonna be 4-3 right through that sucker, and you ain't gonna catch me. Or if you're in my way, I'm gonna pound straight over you. And then Cleve was basically he could do a little bit of all of it, catch out the backfield. He could shake you if you wanted to. He could run over you if you wanted to. He was just another. Cleve was probably if you take and you look at it, you put them all side by side. Cleve was 6'2", 235 pounds of straight back. And so he was like Adrian Peterson and all these cats before Adrian Peterson, right? And so he was just a different type of animal. But it was so fun to see, man. The coach used to always get mad at me, Coach Morris Watts. I love him to death, but he would always get upset at me because I never carried out my fakes. So after you hand the ball off, you're supposed to carry out the fake, make defense think rolling out or whatever. Now I'm not doing none of that, coach. I got to turn around. I got to see what's about to happen because somebody about to get shook, ran over, and it's gonna be a touchdown at some point. I already know, and I'm not gonna miss it. I got the best seat in the house.
Absolutely. And you mentioned Johnny Mitchell and Theo
Yeah,
Williams. I
yeah,
mean, I'm gonna say this right now, and like I said, I played football 3 years at St. Augustine, and my junior year we faced that John Era team.
yep,
To me, those were the two toughest defensive players we have ever faced. And I
yeah,
mean, when I say our offensive line had to work or off to
yep.
try to contain them. Oh my God. Theo Williams and Johnny Mitchell was just, oh my God, they was just so tough. And I ain't gonna lie, that night we were fortunate to get the 11-10 win that night. And I mean, we were so fortunate, and it was a banner year for my junior year. And to be honest, we should have won state that year. But regardless of the fact, that defense in itself, it looked like it was the icing on the cake with Johnny Mitchell and Theo Williams.
Yeah. So when Johnny first came in at LSU, he was starting right away. Theo didn't start right away because he was a little bit smaller, but he was smart and he knew the position and he knew how to play defensive end. And he put on a little weight, and then before you know it, he was in there. And the, you know, the thing about the West Bank, bro, as we always say, is the best bank.
That's
And
right.
the talent galore that comes from the West Bank, from Algiers all the way to bring it all the way down to Homer. I don't care how far you want to go, just keep going. And
Shoot.
and so I say that, but let's keep the box right from Algiers to Marrero, right?
Right.
Let's keep that box right there. There's a lot of talent that comes from that, and there's a lot of get it out the mud talent that come from there. And so these guys knew what it was all about. And then in 95, so that 95 class that I was fortunate enough to be a part of was the class that really brought back what they say the magic to LSU from after a 6, 7 season losing seasons stint, if you will. And so Johnny and them seeing us doing our thing, myself, Larry, Rondell, who else, man? Just Charles
Mike Sutton,
Mike
Mike
Sutton from
Mike
Salmon,
Sutton from Salmon, Charles
Charles
Smith
Smith
from
from
Fortier.
Bullshit. Yep, because Charles and I played that car together in junior high. A lot of people don't know that. Me and Charles go
Mm.
way back, man. Charles called me Bird. The Bird come from the movie with Goldie Hawn, the Wildcats. So the quarterback on the Wildcats,
Wildcats, yes.
they called him Bird, and that's what Charles still call me Bird today. And so a lot of people from that knew me from 7th, 8th, and 9th grade, they all call me Bird. And so, but Charles Smith, so we had a lot of guys that was from that New Orleans area that was greater New Orleans area that was really impacting college football at the time. And I think that really steered Johnny and Theo to LSU and wanting to be at LSU and played as well as they played. And when I tell you well, man, they played beyond well. They were really great, and they were really true teammates, two team players. They understood the game, and they had no issues. Coaches had no issues with none of us, man.
Absolutely. And then you had Booger McFarland as well on the line.
Oh yeah, hold
It's
on, BK. Let me say
unbelievable.
one thing real quickly. You had mentioned Johnny and them. I'm gonna say a name that I know y'all gonna remember before Johnny, because I played against him. His name what's his name? Mike Phillips, defensive end at John Eric.
Mm.
Man, that boy was a beast. When I tell
Beast.
you he was a beast, he was a beast. And I think that's
Yes.
where Johnny and Theo got their beast mode from because they were playing behind him. They were coming up as he was playing and doing this thing, man. And Mike was a beast. I just wanted to share that with you. Just give Mike a shout out. I really thought highly of him.
Very much agreed. He was I think he went to Colorado, I believe.
I think
Right?
so.
Yeah, he went to
I think so.
Colorado.
Either
Mike
Colorado
Phillips.
or Miami, one of the two.
Yeah, Colorado, because I think a lot of people that was that run Colorado made.
Yeah.
Then I believe that was under McCarthy. It was
McCarthy.
under
Yep.
Phil McCartney. They made that run, getting a lot of Louisiana players to
Yep.
come
And
up
Jerry
there.
Donato was the offensive coordinator there at the time, believe it or not.
Wow.
Yep.
Awesome.
Indeed.
Yeah. So I gotta ask you this, man. What do you say? Because there's certain people and critics out there, not critics, but certain fans kind of, they say certain things about Donato and stuff like, but they say, I don't know if he was a good coach and all. I'm like, in my opinion, Donato was part of the turnaround
Yeah, he
of
was
LSU.
for
You know
sure.
what I'm saying?
Hmm.
And in my opinion, you have to think about this. He took the program as far as he could, and people have to be grateful because you have to think about the hell that program went through under who? Curly Hallman.
Hmm.
So
Yep.
trust me, I can tell you a bunch of college programs that went through hell since maybe a one-time great coach there, and all of a sudden the program's not maintained.
Yeah.
But for Jared Donato to do what he did to turn around the LSU program, what did he meant for you, and what you can say to some fans that really need to think about what they're saying about a guy who did everything he can and brought back some of the magic to LSU that they have not had in a whole decade before that time.
Yeah, man. No, that's I appreciate you saying all of that. I think that for me, I'm indebted to Jared Donato forever. Right? He gave me an opportunity that he didn't have to. And not only did he give me the opportunity, but he was actually the one that had called me in his office and said, "Hey, I think you really should look at playing cornerback." Which I could have played cornerback and balled out. I could play safety. I could have did all of that stuff. Not a problem. But I really wanted to play quarterback. It was my dream to play quarterback. And then I told him that, and he said, "No problem. I'll let you sit and whatever, and we'll see how this year pans out, and then we can come back and revisit this conversation." He didn't force me to. He didn't do anything to make me think otherwise, that he wasn't going to give me an opportunity. That being said, I get the opportunity. I actually play, and literally I get all kind of different throughout my 4 years there. I got a bunch of different hate stuff that was going on, and him and Coach Watts were pivotal to helping me get through all of those negative things that was going on behind the scenes that people didn't know, which has built my character to who I am today. That being said, again, is his coaching. He may not be the very best coach in the entire universe, but he was the right coach at the right time for that university, right? And he knew how to get the Kevin Falks of the world, the Booger McFarlands, the Todd McClures, the Alan Fanekas, the Herb Tylers, the Cecil Collins. He knew how to get these players, the Rohan Davies. He knew how to get these players in. Um, and in 1998, if he was able to, well, late 97, if he was able to keep Coach Carl Reese, who was our defensive coordinator, I think things would have been different in 98, 99, 2000. He wouldn't have been, it wouldn't have happened in the way that it did, because he made some choices, which I do on a daily basis now with the work that I do, that you have to really dive deep into understanding the heartbeat of the people that you are going to bring on that may affect your bottom line on a daily basis. And I think that was a problem for him. He didn't really bring the right people in. And I think that was ultimately his demise. But think about it, 95, we don't win. We're not winning anything. He inherits a really talented team, brings in a great freshman class. Bam, we go to the Independence Bowl, and he beats who? The number one coach ever that anybody ever says is the greatest coach ever to coach the game, Nick Saban. Comes back the following year, we go 10-2, then we go 9-3, and then all hell breaks loose because of the decisions that he made with the coaching staff. And so that's it. But Derek Donato was definitely pivotal to where LSU is today.
Absolutely, and taking a look, you look at that Michigan State, that team, that Michigan. You have to think, and that was like maybe a couple years. That was like a couple years before Nick Saban came to LSU, and you had
Yep.
to think they had a banner year that year, and that was one of the last times that a Big Ten team swept. And you had to think Michigan State that year, and some people keep saying at the time it was critical when Nick said, but I was like, hey, 1 year Michigan State beat Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn
Yep.
State
Yep.
in one season.
Yep.
That is hard to do. And
Yep.
he did it. So I just
Excuse me.
knew right then and there when it came to LSU, I said, he about to take LSU to the next level.
Yeah.
That's just straight up with me. But at that time, but going forward, your passing game, more than anything else, kept getting better and better. We
Yep.
seen some great passing in the Michigan State game. And
Yep.
then I think the Florida game you did not too bad either. But
Yep.
I really thought the game against Clemson in that Peach Bowl,
Yeah.
the decisions you made, the good throws, the plays you made, it just showed your maturity as a player and also as a quarterback.
Yeah. I appreciate you saying that again, man. So yeah. So my passing, I ended up being like number 3 or number 4 all time passing completion percentages, right? Um, and this is me. So this is me coming from under the center, playing in a pro style offense in college that was also trying to transition to what we kind of see now in a way. Um, but I was only throwing the ball anywhere between 14 to 18 times a game. Like right now, that's unheard of. I mean, if you don't get 30 passes, you ain't doing nothing in college, right? So my 14 to 18 passes a game, I was completing 10, 11, 12 of those every game. And I didn't get the opportunity to throw the ball deep much. A lot of our passes were intermediate passes, but it was all reading and understanding the defense, and the defense dictated where the ball would go. And so you're right. In the Independence Bowl, I got to throw the ball really well because they were dictating that I throw the ball to Eddie Kennison on corner routes for touchdowns and Shedrick Wilson for slants, and then he was getting 12, 15 yards each. Kevin really opened the game up with his running ability. And so that was pretty good. And then against Florida, I think I only threw the ball like 12 or 14 times. It wasn't many at all. But completed most of those and completed the big passes at the right time, right? Um, and then you fast forward into that Clemson game that you're talking about. I don't think I threw the ball many times in that game either, but every pass was on pinpoint accurate. It was to the right person, and it was meaningful completions. And so, and I even had one dropped in the end zone by David LaFleur, which should have been a
Mm.
touchdown. So we should have won by 4 more points or whatever it was. So but yeah, man, no, I appreciate you saying that. And my passing got better and better each year because in high school, we didn't run that type of offense. We ran a veer offense in high school. So I wasn't a traditional drop back quarterback in high school, not by any stretch of the means. Um, so I had to kind of rethink who I was as a quarterback. One of the good things that I did was I would always look at Joe Montana. He was my favorite NFL quarterback. And so I would look at how he did his thing, his drop and his release and all the little hitch at the back on his final step of his drop, whether it's a 3-step, 5-step, 7-step. He got a little hitch in it. I had the same thing, a little bounce and all this other stuff. I released the ball really high and followed through really well. And I had the little pat just like him. So if you look at him, look at me, I'm not comparing myself to Joe Montana, not by any stretch of the means, but I took a lot of his game and I tried to incorporate it myself. And I tried to do the best that I could. And I think I grew as a quarterback, drop back quarterback from my freshman year to my senior year tremendously. And the stats proved that.
And I gotta tell you, I'm about to ask you about your high school career right now, but at the same time, you're one of the few people who overcame that moniker about option quarterback, like yourself and Mickey Joseph and
Yeah.
also Cordell Stewart,
Yeah.
how they made the adjustments and they can just okay, now you can show not just that, they showed that they can throw the football and it's like all right, this is more scary than I thought. And we know he can run, but now he can throw it.
Yeah.
So it's a double whammy for any opponents.
Yeah, so Cardell had the greatest opportunity out of all the three names you said, myself, Mickey, and Cardell. Cardell was the man, or is the man, still is today. Mickey is always going to be the man. Mickey was one of those guys that I looked up to when I was playing because I always wanted to go to Shaw. I know he's gonna smile, and it was my dream school to go to. Couldn't afford it though, and I didn't know nothing about other ways and avenues to get into it. And Coach Hank went and looked at a couple guys from the park ball and all of that stuff, and he didn't never selected me. So I'm gonna say that. And I gave Coach Hank hell in high school, and he'll tell you right now. Him
Mhm.
and JT, they both know what's happening. But anyway, um, But yeah, no, man, those guys, you know, you start naming quarterbacks from the West Bank. You know, you go to Mickey, you go to Vance, you go to Cordell, you go to Ike Wilson, you go to
And came from Algiers at that. You
yeah,
know what I'm
yeah,
saying?
yeah. You go. I mean, you go to Patrick Surtain. You go to man, what's Patrick brother? Played at O.P.W. I can't think of his first name right now. He gonna kill me too when I see him. LC Surtain at Walker. Herman Dyson when he played quarterback at Walker. Man, I mean, just a slew of people that actually played very very well. Melvin Dickerson at West Jeff.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean,
yes.
you know what I'm saying? Like I played against these cats. These dudes, everybody was good, man. None of us was slackers at all. What's your boy name at John Eric? Was it Tank? Tank who played at John Eric?
Tank Coleman.
Yeah,
Tank
yeah,
Coleman.
man. He was awesome.
Tank was really good. You know what I'm saying? Like you mentioned, Melvin, like I know this might be kind of ludicrous, but I'm just younger than older folks. Probably the greatest West Jeff quarterback I've ever seen. I'm just 44, but
Yeah,
bruh, Melvin Dickerson
he
was
was
the
good,
truth.
bro. He
He
was a
was the
true.
truth at West Jeff.
Yeah, man. We would play West Jeff all the time in the jamboree. Well, a couple jamborees and some scrimmages and stuff like that. And I saw it firsthand. So you know, and he was throwing the ball to Larry, man. He was. I mean, he had the best receiver in my opinion in the country at the
Exactly.
time, you know, and that ain't no slight to Reggie or nobody like that. That's before Reggie's class,
Right.
you know. But at the end of the day, I thought Larry was probably the best receiver ever, and I remember just seeing him and Melvin have this connection that was just awesome, man, and it was great. And I was like, man, these boys are balling out here.
Melvin threw. I'll tell anybody. Look at the West Jeff film if you find it. That boy threw bombs.
Yeah, he did.
Bombs.
He was good.
He was really good. But looking at your career at O'Perry Walker, Larry Favre was your head coach,
Yes,
and
sir. Well,
and
actually, Charlie Crawford was my head coach. Larry Favre was
okay,
my offensive coordinator.
office court. Okay, excuse me
Yes,
on that one.
that's all right.
Now at the time, you know what I'm saying, like you mentioned, you run a Ville offense, had a really good program, very competitive. You made postseason every year and everything else. How it was with your career, but especially the performances you had, it's amazing. Like you're winning a lot of games. Okay, losing to Shaw, losing to Curtis, but was close games. But you
Yep.
just broke out and having like 2, 3 touchdown games and everything else. And Hank Tierney and JT Curtis is like, and this guy's hard to stop.
Yeah. You know, man, I'm gonna say this. So I can't start there. I always got to go back because everybody know starting at Lower Coast for the Warrior. You know, the Lower Coast Warriors at the time, um, where it kind of groomed me to it did groom me to who I am today. And I remember going out there for the first practice, and they put me at center. And I was the best center he had. And then somebody told Coach, you know, you can throw the football a little bit, huh, Coach? And Coach was like, and it's Coach Dillon, Edward Dillon, and his daddy was the coach, Coach Dillon, and Charles Dillon was his name. And and I threw the ball. He's like, oh Lord, yeah, you're gonna be my quarterback. Now I ain't throw the ball to anybody or whatever. He just said throw it. I just threw it. It was fall. That's it. That's all he knows. And so he put me at the position, and I was able to excel during that time. Ended up going to Edna Carr. 7, 8, and 9. I didn't play my 7th grade year. I played my 8th grade year. Patrick Surtain was the quarterback. Coach Ott, L. Ott was the head coach. And that's where I learned how to be disciplined. That's where I learned how to play as a team. That's how I learned how to go undefeated. That's how I learned how to say, you don't take no for an answer. So I didn't start at quarterback then. I played cornerback. So in that year, I think we only played like 6 or 7 games or something like that because of the teacher strike year. But myself and Delphin Lee actually won co Mr. Interceptions of the year that year. So he and I both had like 10 or 9 interceptions in like 5 or 6 games, whatever it was. And so watching those guys play, then I was able to become in my 9th grade year be the starting quarterback at McCarr Junior High, and we won a championship. Me and Noel Ellis. I'm throwing names out there. Everybody should know all these names. Me and Noel
Noel,
Ellis
yeah.
Yep.
was alternating at quarterback that year because Charles Smith hurt my ankle going into the season. And
Mm.
so at the end of the day, me and Noel ended up bringing the championship home for Edna Carr Junior High. And then now you fast forward to the decision that I needed to make. Coach Ron Guerin. I don't know if y'all know Coach Ronald Guerin.
Yes.
One of the best people in the entire world and universe. I love him to death. Every time I see him, they give him a big old hug. And he said, "Look, he brought Coach man, what's Coach Watney, Don Watney. They
Now,
brought me in and they sit down and said, look, we want you to come here. Pat's gonna be the starting quarterback going into his senior year or whatever it was, or junior year, whatever it was. But we think after that you might be able to come in and we allow Pat to go play cornerback." And I was like, man, there's no way you're gonna make Pat go play quarterback. He's too good of a quarterback. They ain't happening. So I'm like, yeah, I need to think about this a little bit. Ended up making the decision to go to O.P.W Walker. I probably should have stayed at Carr, but I went to Walker. And God don't make no mistakes, just so y'all know. And
Right.
so that was a situation, a decision that I made. And so I get to O.P.W Walker, and I'm like, man, this is a complete different place. Rest in peace to Jamo. The moment I walk on campus, like 2 days, Jamo was shot and killed on campus. And I'm trying to figure out, why did I make this decision? But I stood fast to the decision, kept moving forward, started playing. I didn't play right away. Well, actually, I did. I'm sorry. It was my sophomore year. My sophomore year. Herman Dyson was the starting quarterback. Old Herb Teasy was the starting punter. Killing that thing too. I was 45 yards a punt, making every tackle first game. And then the second game came against Shaw. And coach was like, we're not winning right now. We were down like, I don't know. Was it Shaw? Yeah, I think it was Shaw. It was Shaw. We was down like, I don't know, 35-14 or something like that. I come in the game and throw like 4 touchdown passes. We end up losing 42-35. And so
Hmm.
that became the era of Herb Tyler at O.P.W Walker. And Herman Dyson went to tight end, and we just killed it from that point on. And so you're right. We would lose these really close games to Shaw and John Curtis only because they were just a tad bit more disciplined than we were.
And you look at you. Let's look at the history a little bit of Algiers. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
You were part of the time that the Algiers championship meant a lot
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
city more than anything else. It used to be a two-team rivalry between
yep,
O.P.W Walker and L.B. Landry. That changed. And it became I called it the Urban Commander in Chiefs Trophy because Edna Carr stepped in to become a high school, and it
yeah,
became a three-team race. Who has the winning record wins the trophy.
yeah,
Whoa, tell us the time of how the Algiers championship kind of changed things with the three teams.
yeah. So when I played at Walker and we were playing Landry, um, it was always the biggest game, always, because Carr really wasn't a part of it. My first, I guess, my all 3 years, because I don't think Carr played Landry or Walker. We never played them. We wanted to play them from my sophomore to my senior year, but we never got an opportunity to. So the year I graduated, when 1995, when I started playing at LSU, excuse me, that's when O.P.W Walker and Carr started playing each other, and so that Landry Walker game was always pivotal and very huge to not only the Algiers but to the city, because it was two of the best public schools to play each other in from the New Orleans area. O.P.W Walker is the most successful public school ever in the history of Orleans Parish football. Period. Period. There's no other school that's better, greater, or whatever. I don't care who you are. Bring me the stats, bring me the numbers. I'm gonna get a lot of flack from this, but that's my school. That's what I feel, and that's what I think the history shows. You go back and you look at all the players, all of everything that come from it. And I'm not. This is not saying this is not Carr is not included, because Carr at the time was a magnet school. It was not a public school. If I'm talking Orleans Parish public schools, so it's a complete difference. So, but that rivalry game against LB Landry was so pivotal. My mama went to Landry. All of my family went to Landry. I think a couple of my sisters and brothers went to O.P.W Walker. But I was like, man, my neighbor down the street, Benny Harris, went to Landry. And me and Benny met in the end zone one time, and he couldn't stop me because he wasn't gonna happen that night. Benny, I love you, big brother. I love you. Man, playing against uh 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 Bussy at quarterback. Bussy, and I didn't mention Bussy earlier, but I need to. Bussy was one of the best quarterbacks ever in Orleans Parish school history. I That's coming from me because I
Mm.
saw the bombs that he was throwing to Courtney Hogan, to Coco.
Cool.
He was throwing to
Mm.
Jamal. He was throwing to Bird. And I remember Radi, man, just them boys was balling on defense. Cubby was out there. Man, I can't think of man, big boy, rest in peace. I can't think of his name right now, bro. But it was some rivalry going on, bro. And we all was catching the bus. So Cubby and all them, they was catching the bus, the same RTA bus, but just getting off at a different stop in the morning. You know what I'm saying? So it was awesome, man. It was so great. It was so wonderful. And it was one of those deals where it was no beef either at all. We'll see them boys in the street. There ain't no beef. We love each other. We family, even to this day. And it was such a great time and a great opportunity to play against and share the field with those guys that I never ever ever forget that. And I think that no matter where life took me, no matter how high in sports that I ever whatever goals I ever achieved, it was all because of playing against competition like them and having that respect for one another on the field and just being in love with playing the game and understanding how that affected everybody in our community, even the people coming up behind us.
Since you are Old Prairie Walker alumni, I gotta ask you this: what was your thoughts of the merger between Old Prairie
So
Walker and LB Landry when they became Landry Walker? Did you think that merger worked? Because it seemed like to me two families came together, and it
yes.
seemed like a community came together. And to me, it made a lot of sense until the end of it.
Yeah, so the crazy part about that, I was asked that question before it actually happened. And the first question I asked was, so why is Opera Walker not reopening, right? Because
Yeah.
I mean, in my mind is why is this not happening? And I get it. Etna Carr was over there, and it's really hard to have three really great institutions within a two or 3 or 4 mile radius of each other in such a tight knit place. It's not like we're in Texas somewhere where there's a million people in this district, a million out, a million out. It's not that. So you're trying to pull from everywhere. So I get it. So to answer your question direct, I thought it was really fitting that O'Perry Walker and Landry Walker combined and became one. And you saw exactly what it did. It was challenging at first. People didn't know what to expect. They didn't know how to coexist. All of a sudden, the football team started winning. The basketball team started winning. The bands became greater. Now your parents and your brothers and your cousins, your sisters and your everybody else in your family and everybody before you and behind you and after you and all this other stuff are repping Landry Walker because it's one big, proudful, happy family, right? And so I think it was probably one of the single most greatest things that ever happened to Algiers, in my opinion, and almost one of the single most saddest things because now there's no representation for O'Perry Walker now. There's nothing. All we have is the building up there, right? And so Landry Walker or Landry deserves to have what they have. That's because it's just Landry, and they have a history as well. But O'Perry Walker should have the same thing too. So I hope I answered your question,
Oh
and
yeah.
I think it was really a great move. I'm just kind of sad to see that there's no O'Perry Walker right now, and that we just need to figure out how that's going to shake itself out.
I very much agreed. I very much agree with you. Absolutely. My mom's a Landry graduate and everything. And seeing the movement from year one to what it became, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Year one, the football team goes to the state semifinals, pushes Edna Carr to the limit. And then the
Yes.
basketball team in their first year wins the state championship.
Yes.
And then on top of that, at the end of the school year, over $1 million of scholarships. We're talking about
Crazy.
a combine of academic and
Crazy.
athletics
Yes.
for that school. And you just
Crazy.
knew it was going to work from there. You know what I'm saying? But a lot of
It's
great
never been
moments.
it's never been like that separate, right?
Never.
And then
Right.
what's amazing scene to me today, and it still brings chills to my body right now when I think it was Etna Carr went out and played the 4A championship in the dome, and then right behind them comes Landry Walker, and as Edna Carr going into the locker room, Landry Walker coming out and Edna Carr just really celebrating their one, and encouraging Landry Walker to go out and do the same thing. That's what you call black people magic right there, Brian. Love. And that's the thing that I think the city has been missing for a long time. And I really enjoy seeing that. And I really enjoy the fact that everybody was able to come together at that moment in time. That just shows you how strong the love is in LGS. Period.
That was to me one of the greatest moments I ever
Yes.
covered. One of the
Yeah.
greatest stories because to me, and I was on my show and I put a bunch of advertisements on social media, but I was on my show and the biggest thing I did, I called out the city of Algiers. I said, "Come out."
Yep.
John, the whole Marrero came for John Eric. It's your turn. You know Monroe gonna shut it down.
Yep.
Show out. Show
Yep.
up and show out. And they did. I've never seen anything like that when you have a different bunch of colors. Car colors,
Yep.
O.P.W Walker colors,
Name it.
Landry colors,
Yep.
and the Landry Walker new colors.
Yep.
I'm like, this is unbelievable. And this may be the last time you ever seen the Superdome go to maybe 3 levels
That's
for
right.
the first time in a long, long time.
That's
So
right.
that was an amazing night in itself. But I gotta ask you this, and I'm gonna let Jared take over with the questions. Um, what do you think was maybe actually there's a 2-part question. I'm sorry.
Okay.
One, which was the toughest player you have ever faced? And the other question is which Algiers moment was probably the biggest you ever experienced? Was it Edna Carr winning the first state title? Is it Edna Carr going 4 straight? Is it O.P.W Walker getting to the dome going against Curtis? Is it Landry Walker winning the first basketball championship? Or the night that Algiers took over the Superdome?
Yeah. So the first question, the best player that I've ever played against. Um, if you take, I guess if you take, all the way from junior high all the way to high school, if you will, and then I'm sorry to college, and then even like arena football and Canadian football, things of that nature. I think the best singular, most interesting, difficult, most just greatest player that I ever played against had to have been probably Javon Curse at Florida. I thought that dude was a beast, and it was so difficult for us to block him and do whatever. He was just on another level. And then if I go to high school, I'll have to go back and I'd say that name again, Mike Phillips. Man, that dude was a beast in high school. Um, that being said, when you talk about the greatest singular, most wonderful moment that I think Algiers has ever had in regards to sports is concerned, I would say it is that moment that Algiers took over the dome for sure. Um, but the greatest moment that I had, that I really truly feel about Algiers, is the fact that that's my home. That's where I grew up, from the cutoff to the ferry. Um, I loved everything about it. It's a place that's matured myself to be who I am today, and it's always gonna be home, and it's always a special place, and there's no other place like it, as you can see when you look at the Edna Carr documents, docu series, if you will, on Hulu. So it's one of those places that's unmatched, man. There's no place like it in the world. Very difficult for anybody to match that situation. So I really think at the end of the day, that's how I feel about it. Algiers in itself is just the greatest moment. Just Algiers, period.
That was huge in itself, and you're absolutely right. And it's funny, like I said, my mom's a Landry graduate. She lived literally 2 houses down from Landry. My
Yeah,
grandmother stayed there, and Algiers is a second kind of a second home to me. That was an amazing moment in itself. I think to me, like the West Bank has had their moments. They had their moments, but Algiers had a lot of big moments in the last
Yeah.
maybe 2 decades. It's crazy.
You know how crazy that is? So I remember, I'm old enough to remember, and I'm sure there's people who gonna watch this and they're gonna be old enough to remember that Algiers was a separate place at one time. It was Algiers Point, it was the Fisher Project, it was the scatter sites, it was Christopher Holmes, it was McClintonville, and then there was the cutoff. And then they had the white neighborhood, as we called it. So it was all separate things, right? And I'm literally I was born in the Fisher Project, stayed there till I was like 7 or 8, and then we ended up moving across the river by my aunt for about 6 months, to 3 to 6 months, and then we ended up moving to the cutoff, and we lived in the cutoff ever since. And so I literally, from the cutoff to the ferry, I know everybody, I know all about it, and it was a place from my inception to where I could just go wherever I wanted to, and everybody showed me love, and I showed them love, and it was all respect. And that's what that moment when Algiers took over the dome reminds me of. All of those different little pockets of everything that once was beefing with each other and all this other stuff. Squash all that. Everybody's together with one.
I just love it, man. It was just unbelievable that night and everything else. And you talking about redemption stories? That the one redemption story from that night was the fact that you look at Landry Walker. That was like, this is your second time making history.
Yeah.
Your basketball team won that
Mm-hmm.
first state title, and it's like first state title for LB Landry and O'Perry Walker. Probably it's amazing with that. But with football,
Yeah.
you didn't broke all molds, and you look at the offensive coordinator at the time for Landry Walker, John Johnson,
Yep.
the defensive coordinator, Dennis Christopher.
Yep.
They was on the dome team that
Yep.
played against
Mm-hmm.
Curtis. And I mean, that was a big redemption night. And I
Yep.
mean, for them to represent their alma maters and for them to get it done for that school.
Yes,
And I
sir.
mean, that was absolutely great.
Absolutely.
Jared?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Herb Tyler, we will get you out of here with this last question. LSU athletics is rolling right now.
Yeah.
Women's basketball team national championship. Baseball team just won a national championship.
Yep.
Brian Kelly in his first year won the SEC West.
Yeah.
What is your take on the state of LSU football right now under Brian Kelly?
Yeah, man. So first of all, Scott Woodard is just a magician, apparently, and he knows who to bring in, when to bring him in, and how to bring him in. So that guy has kudos goes to him for bringing in a group of great head coaches, and we have yet to see what the new basketball coach is going to do. But if it's anything like everybody else, I feel like it's going to be absolutely phenomenal, just like everybody else. So that being said, I've always been. I told you before. I'm one of Notre Dame's biggest fans, and I've always wanted to go there. So I always pay attention to him. So I watched Brian Kelly over the last 10 years do his thing at Notre Dame, and Notre Dame in 1988 was much different than Notre Dame from 2013 to 2023, right, or 22.
Mm-hmm.
It's completely different, and the college football, everything is different. So I knew it was going to be difficult for Coach Kelly to win a championship, and he literally got to two of them, and just couldn't finish it because he was just undersized and underman, and it just wasn't his time. And I said, man, if that man ever get a job like LSU or something like that, and he gets 3 years under his belt that brings the players he wants to bring in, and he put the system in place, he's going to be vying for championships every year. So that should tell you what I feel about it. I think very highly of Coach Kelly, and I think he's one of the greatest, smartest, most intelligent coaches in college football. He just hadn't had the right opportunity, and now he gets that opportunity. Just the sky's the limit. Um, he know you know he recruits offensive linemen, defensive linemen, tight ends, linebackers, like the best of them. Then you add in a Frank Wilson who's going to bring in all your quarterbacks, your running backs, your receivers, your cornerbacks, and your DBs, and your safeties and things of that nature. Man, I mean, let's talk. Now all you got to do is put the right coordinators in place to ensure that you can develop this talent and get these guys in the right situations so they can be successful and maturate throughout their time that they're at LSU, which is one of the things that Les Miles didn't know how to do. He tried, but he didn't know how to create these guys, take these guys from a freshman to a senior, and then they're much better. They never really got better when they got to LSU under Les Miles. Coach O struck gold when he in 2019. It was one of those just you knock your head up against the goalpost, and this is what you got. So it'll never be repeated like that ever again. But what you can do is you can get to a great place that I think Coach Kelly would get to, which is going to be one of the highest levels of SEC college football that you ever going to see. He's going to be right up there vying for college football playoffs with Nick Saban, with Kirby Smart, with Dabo Sweeney. He's going to be right up there. And look, in USC, watch out for USC because I really like what they're doing over there too. It's going to be tough. But I really don't think that's really all that I can see right now that's going to be trying to do something. But I really do love the fact that Coach Kelly is at LSU, and I think Coach Woodard, not Coach, I'm sorry, the athletic director, Coach Woodard, Mr. Woodard is the reason for it. Scott Woodard.
It's funny you say Frank Wilson. Me and VK, we was at the Desperate scrimmage, and at the very end, Frank come walking up, and VK sees him first. He starts doing all this to him, and he dabs him off. And I shake his hand, and I told him my name. He said, "Yeah, I recruited you." I said, "No, you didn't recruit me. You recruited my brother." And I told him my brother's name. He said, "Yeah." And I said, "But you just got my cousin on your team." He go, "Well, who's your cousin?" I said, "Logan Diggs." And he hugged me. He said, "You my family too now." Man, it was so funny.
That's right.
But I want to ask you this now. It just popped in my head. So you're talking about Coach Kelly. Jaden Daniels, when he transferred, I said, "Hey, this is the guy at quarterback for LSU to get him to the top." And he's back for another year. What are your thoughts?
So, Jaden Daniels, when he was at Arizona State, he played very, very well sparingly. Like, they're up, down, whatever, blah, blah, blah. But you could see the greatness that he potentially had in him. And so what he needed was a challenge. And I think he needed to be put in a structured system that was really going to afford him the very best opportunity to be able to distribute the ball like he needed to. Last year, Jaden showed flashes of Heisman Trophy winning candidate, but he also showed flashes of, man, what the hell is he doing? Why is he waiting so long? Why is he not throwing the ball? But that's that first year, right? Because he still had some Arizona State tendencies in him, things of that nature. So now you fast forward to this year. He's got 1 year under his belt, a year and a half on this belt with 2 springs, and I think 2 summers, as a matter of fact. He's working with a core group of guys that I think is going to be phenomenal. He gets a second year in the system. He knows and understands now what and where he needs to go with the football. So that ball is going to be coming out fast, guys. It ain't going to be like what we saw last year, a little bit of unsurety, not quite sure if I should do this, not quite sure if I should. Man, that ball is going to come out quick. It's going to come out fast, and it's going to come out with purpose. And I think that's going to help him with his running game too, because now the defense is going to have to step back a little bit. Whoa, wait a minute now. What's going on here? And they're on their heels, and then he take off, and he's one of the fastest people you've seen running with the football. So, I just want to make sure that he just learns how to get down or learn how to get tackled too, because we don't want him to get hurt. He can't get injured. We need him. And I think that Coach Kelly did a phenomenal job of bringing him from where he was. The Florida State game, there's no way we should lose that game, but we did. But it was a great lesson learned. We don't want that taste in our mouth again. He showed that fourth quarter. So that game was a perfect game of ups and downs for him, right? That the fourth quarter, last drive or second last drive, I mean, man, you can't get no better than that. 90-something yards, touchdown, blah, 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 puts us in the position to be great and win that game. And, y'all know what happened after that. That being said, man, I think that Jaden Daniels is going to be a really sleeper this year for the Heisman Trophy candidate, because I'm thinking that I'm going to put about $200 on him for the Heisman Trophy this year.
Indeed. Now I gotta ask you this one thing too, but at the same time, The reason why I did that to Frank Wilson, and
Yeah,
you ought to
yeah,
know about this, you know what I'm saying?
St.
Nah,
Aug, yeah,
no,
St.
not
Aug,
just
yeah.
because of St. Aug. No, not because of that. Because that man took O.P.W Walker to the ultimate level in itself.
Yes, he did.
When I say he took it to the next level, he took it to the next level. He
yeah,
took O.P.W Walker to the dome. He gave
Yep.
John Curtis the first loss in
yep,
over 2 decades in a
yep.
district, and not just that, shut him out. So for
Yes.
him to do what he did, that's beyond purple. That's beyond purple for what he did.
No,
Yes,
so
sir.
look, Frank Wilson is forever in the folklore of LJ's history, right? And
Yes.
then
Yes.
you add to LSU, he's forever in the folklore of Louisiana history. And then let's
That's right.
expand that a little bit further. You know, before he left LSU the first time, if you will, I say the first time, but before he went and took the job at UTSA,
Mhm.
he was the number one recruiter in the country. He was
Yes, sir.
the guy. He was the guy everybody was talking about, and he still is that guy. Not, I don't want to use past tense, but at the time, that's what they were saying. So I say all that to say is I respect the fact that you respect him so much to do that. That's what you should do because he deserved that. He didn't get that by accident either. He earned that. I'll tell you a quick little funny
Uh,
story. I was living in Gretna at the time in an apartment, a one bedroom apartment. And this was right when Frank got the job. And I was kind of trying to figure out what I was going to do. Didn't know what I was doing. From go try to do some arena football or something. I don't know. I was just trying to find myself at the time. Frank came and sat down with me. Said, "Man, I'm about to get the head coaching job at Walker. I want you to come over there and be my offensive coordinator." I said, "Man, I just really don't know what I want to do. I don't know where I'm at. I'm really not sure if I'm ready for that or whatever. So I have to respectfully turn you down." So I screwed up and should have took that job because then I would have been on that coaching staff with that magnificent man and learned from him to be what he is today. But you know what? We all have path and we go our certain ways. And God don't make mistakes, like I said before.
That's right.
And everything worked out the way it was supposed to work out for him. Same thing with me. Every time I see him, when I see him, I generally don't see him out and about in Baton Rouge. I see him all the time on the field before game days or before the game on game days, and he always give me a hug and he always tell me this one phrase: "Welcome home," every time.
And you got to think on that staff also. Jabbar Jaluk was at
Mhm.
Florida. David
Yeah.
Johnson's at Florida State. They was on that O.P.W Walker staff as well. So
Algiers,
that's
baby.
amazing to see.
Algiers and St.
Algiers.
Aug. I got to give you your St. Aug. I'm not going to leave St. Aug out of that, and I'm gonna give you
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But
I'm
Algiers,
like this. We're humble. We're
that's
humble Purple Knights, and that's what it is. I'm gonna tell you. I know I told Jared this, but I'm gonna tell you this. I was at the semifinal game against St. Martinville.
right. Yep.
I was at Berman. I had a big St. Aug Letterman jacket. The people of O.P.W Walker looked at me funny, and I came with this response. I said, "Excuse me, your head coach comes from our school.
That's right.
We represent our brothers, no matter where they at." And
Yep.
when they heard that, it's like, "Oh, he did go. Oh, my bad, my bad. We sorry, man. We sorry, we
Hey,
sorry."
don't forget that head
Yep,
coach who represented your school actually grew up in the cutoff. Just so you know,
exactly. He
like four
from. We
streets
got a
behind me.
we got a bunch of West Bankers from all. So
Hey, look,
that's
don't,
just what it
I,
is.
look. I'm not gonna lie. So my junior year, after my junior year at O.P.W Walker, I think it was yeah, I think it was my junior year. He's my sophomore, my junior year. One of y'all coaches, whoever was the coach, I don't remember, came to my cousin and got my phone number or our phone number some kind of way. Talked to my dad and showed up at our house one day and was trying to recruit me to leave O.P.W Walker to go to St. Aug, and I respectfully turned him down as well because I'd already started my journey at O.P.W Walker, and I didn't want to, flip flop and be nothing like that. I wanted to see that path through.
Hey
But
man.
I did like St. Aug. St. Aug was a very good school.
Now
Awesome.
I'm gonna ask you this before we close out. You're an alumni of LSU.
Yes.
Which national championship football team was the best in your opinion?
Oh man, that's hands down 2019. I mean, I mean, look, I don't know how you get like you ain't gonna catch that lightning in the bottle ever. That thing right there was something magnificent. And the reason why they were so good was because no one knew they were coming.
Right.
Like, because you remember, so Joe Burrow the year before, I think it was the last 3 or 4 games, really started coming on, including the bowl game.
Mm-hmm.
He's having like some 200-yard passing games, and then like 300 yards and one 400-yard passing game. And then all of a sudden, you go into the season. The biggest question mark was on the offensive line. No one knew what the offensive line would do. We really didn't have a running back. I mean, we had some guys, but nobody knew what was going to really happen with that. And then all of a sudden, you get Joe Brady. He comes in there, he does what he does, and then that Texas game where it was like, man, hold on, man. We go to Texas and we're playing this game. Texas should probably win this game, but they don't. LSU wins it. How did they pull that off? Well, that wasn't a fluke, because from that point on, 46, 50, 60 points every game. And then all of a sudden you got this trio of receivers that's literally just the best that anybody has seen. And then, you turn around and you add the spice of Joe Burrow on there. Because that boy, you remember how I was saying that Jaden Daniels is going to get that ball out?
Yeah.
That's where he's going to get that from. Seeing Joe Burrow and the way he did that, I think that's what you're going to see out of Jaden Daniels this year. I'm not saying that he's going to be a Joe Burrow. He's going to be a Jaden Daniels, and he probably will win that Heisman Trophy if he does that.
And then you had the ultimate underdog in the backfield, Clyde Edwards-Helaire.
Yeah.
I mean, look, when I said the ultimate underdog, I said it for a reason. He broke out senior year at Catholic, that game against Rummel. And I'm like, we kept talking about the year before, Darius Geis. We thinking like, I don't know what Catholic gonna do to get here. Edwards-Helaire lit up Rummel, and that Rummel team was probably one of the best I've seen. And I mean, the performance he had, I said, oh my God, these people about to pull it off. What he did at LSU, amazing. That he just turned his game up and is amazing. He's still in the league.
He reminded me of Dalton Hill, because his lower body is so strong, and his center of gravity is literally perfect. And my wife and I used to watch the games all the time when they were playing in that 2019 season, even the 2018 season. And I was like, hey, they just can't. Every time they touch him, he just keep going. Like, it's not like he just falling. You would think he would just fall down because he's such a smaller statured guy, but he's not a small guy. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's just short. He's not really small. And then he was so powerful, so low to the ground, and still is. And that's why he's still in the league, because he's a grown man playing with grown men. At the end of the day, it just looks a little different.
Most definitely. Herb Tyler, my man. Thank you, my friend, for joining us on this show, man. We truly appreciate it.
No, man, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. There was never an ounce or a second of me saying no to joining this show, just so y'all know that. And I appreciate y'all having me. Always indebted to you. Anytime you need me to come back, get me back on, I'm always down for it. And excuse the mess. We got to move my daughter into another apartment, so that's why the back of it looks like that. But I don't really care at the end of the day. Love y'all, man. Thank y'all for having me, man.
We love you too. Thank you so much. We'll probably have you during the season.
All right, guys. Yes, sir.
All right.
Hey, keep up the good work, man. I look forward to watching the next Hash It Out show. Whoever's on next, I'm always watching.
Well, tomorrow's another LSU legend.
There you go.
There he is. All right. Herb Tyler, thank you, my friend.
All right, guys.
Herb Tyler, man. And if you watch Herb Tyler from 1995 to 98, you did watch a show. And he is one of the catalysts of where LSU is at today, man. Because you think about it, he has a winning record. I want to say 27-11 is his record as a starting quarterback for LSU. Senior year, he lost, the 7 games. They went 4-7 with him as a starter. But other than that, think about the big win over ranked Auburn, big win over number 1 Florida. They got to the Peach Bowl with a 10-2 record and defeated Clemson. And this was with Herb Tyler at the helm. Yeah, he had Kevin Falk, Eddie Kennison, Ryan Mealy, Cecil Collins. He had all these guys, but it probably doesn't happen without Herb Tyler at quarterback of the LSU Tigers for those 3.5 years he started.
You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. You had to think at the time you're going from Jamie Howard, knowing he was very inconsistent as a starter and everything else, and you just knew Jared Donato had enough and felt like we need to go to another direction if we're going to get this program going. And I give a lot of credit to Coach Watts and for Jared Donato to develop him, to ease him in more than anything else. And when they eased him in and everything, he kept growing and growing every week. And to me, that Florida game in itself was his breakout performance and probably the best performance I've seen him play because I just was hoping, and I've seen the progress from the biggest thing, and I was seeing her from high school to, I said, okay, I need her to start showing that he's from Walker, but then can we see some throwing? And we started seeing that. And I was like, okay, the Florida game is like, okay, now he's looking like he's looking like how he was at O'Perry Walker. Then the other games, he started passing the ball better,
Yeah.
consistently, the
Yeah.
accuracy. It was just unbelievable for what he did. And it's amazing that how the West Bank represented college football. Like we mentioned with him, his success. We mentioned the success with Cordell Stewart as a
Yeah.
starter at Colorado. Mickey Joseph in his early success. And looking at some past film, and I probably looked at some of his past film. Mickey was amazing at Nebraska. If he
Yeah.
stayed healthy, he starts all 4 years. He started as a freshman at Nebraska, and he was not just running it, he had a good throwing arm too. So I mean, Mickey was really good till he got hurt. But what's crazy about it, look how things kind of work in design. Who was right behind him? Tommy Frazier. And
Mm-hmm.
look what happened in Nebraska. He still had Nebraska good, but regardless of the fact, it's amazing that how Herb transitioned from what O'Perry Walker was running to come into LSU to more of a pro offense, but still at the time, there was like, they kind of added the option to the offense a little bit too,
Yeah.
knowing because of his running and everything else, because, they still had teams that's running option offenses and stuff like that. I think
Yep.
he would have been perfect in that Nebraska, but it was great for LSU to throw that wrinkle in there. And then when he showed how he can throw it too, it was like double trouble for a lot of opponents. I think the only time that year with LSU, and I could have asked that to Herb, I didn't ask him, but the week after they beat Florida, and this was the thing I did not like.
Ooh.
Why they didn't have a bye week? You coming off the high, you gotta play Ole
Ole
Miss
Miss.
on an early kickoff. I did not like that. It was like, why didn't get a bye week or played on another Saturday night against maybe a team non-conference or maybe Vanderbilt or something? But Ole Miss, you got to get up for, and Ole Miss was pretty straight that year, dude. So it's
They were.
like, dang, you got to get up for another big game like this a week, and you play an early kickoff. So I just had a feeling in the back of my house. I was hoping LSU would survive because they had a really good high ranking after the I think it was like 15th in the nation. They jumped to. Man, I was like, the way it was looking, LSU had kind of a sloppy start.
Oh,
They
when
started setting.
they were they were top seven when they once they beat Florida, they were top seven. They went to number seven. I remember that.
You sure? Because I'm like
I am
this. They,
I
I
am
know they, I
positive.
know they, I know they jumped into the top 25 because it was unranked going against Florida, but they jumped into the
No,
top
they were
25
ranked.
high.
They were ranked. They were
No,
ranked. I promise you. I
you
promise you, Miss.
sure? You sure they
Yes,
ranked,
I
huh?
am proud. I
Uh,
promise you. I want to say when they beat
uh,
Florida, they went to number seven. They were ranked.
let's see. Let me
What
check
year was
that
that
out.
game? 1997,
19,
right?
1996, I believe. Wait a minute. Hold up. I think it was 90. No,
No,
hold up.
97.
This is Florida. Was it 90? I don't know. Was no? Oh, that was 95. That was sophomore year. That was sophomore year for for Herb Tyler. I'm talking about that game, that particular game when they upset him. So let's see.
Upset who? Florida?
Yes,
No, that's his junior year. I'm looking at it right now. 97. His junior year.
97.
October 11th, 1997.
Okay, hold on a second. 97.
LSU was 3-1. Well, they were 4-1 playing a 5-0 Florida.
Let's see. Let's see. Try to make sure I grab the right one. Okay,
28.
okay. You're right. Tigers was 14th. There was 14th, and Florida was 1. You're right. I knew it was an upset, but I kind of forgot a bit. I was wondering it was unranked or something, but I had a feeling, and they did jump. They did jump.
Yeah.
The one thing was close about, I knew they were like 14 to 15, but they was ranked at the time 14, but they jumped up. I think they was at 7 against Ole Miss. I think it was at 7, and then all of a sudden, that was the
Yeah.
only
7
regret
against
on
Ole
that.
Miss, and yep.
Yeah,
They jumped up
that
to
was the
7.
only regret about that game, because I'm like, why did they have to play it that early? Why did they couldn't play it Saturday night, or why they couldn't get a formidable opponent to get a breather?
Right.
Because you come off a high like that, it's like, come on, man, you got to give a team some kind of a break, or one of those startup programs. That's a good time you put them in, like a
Hmm.
Georgia Southern 1 week,
Yeah.
But well, that's what life's about. That's that, and in that particular game, that's the reason I rather Saturday night games at Tiger Stadium. There's been a lot of times that LSU has lost day games. Now they won some, but there's a lot of times LSU's lost day games. It's always a better chance for LSU when they play at night.
All the
That's
time.
why. That's why any big games this season, CBS don't come and touch the game. I beg you, please don't come touch the game, because you don't do LSU prime time no more. I noticed that. So don't come touch LSU's home games this year. I want them all night, all of them.
Isn't CBS going to Big Ten this year, or is that next year?
I might be next year. I got to check on that. So they're going big. They're getting Big Ten.
SEC is going to be strictly ESPN, ABC. CBS is getting the Big Ten, ACC, Big 12. I want to say they got contracts with ESPN two. Also, I think ESPN. I'm not sure, but I know. Um, yeah, CBS is going Big 12.
When that's coming up?
Not Big 12, Big 10. I'm sorry.
Big Ten.
Um,
Wow, that's big. That's big. That means they're going out.
guess what? That that begins this year, July 1st. Already started through the 2029 2030 season.
So that
Yeah.
means the Big Ten gonna be on CBS, and is it not? It's not gonna be on Fox anymore, or they're gonna still mix it up.
So the Big Ten Network and the FS1 um also gonna have Fox. Fox will air a feature Big Noon game on Saturdays, and CBS following at 2:30.
Yes, they're not touching the SEC. Hallelujah! Woo! That's great news. Man, I got that's perfect for CBS, because you have to think there's very few times that Big Ten be at night, but I give the Big Ten credit. They've been making an effort by having some games at night. So I give them that, because that was the one conference that I respect the conference, but come on, man, your kickoff's too god doggone early, man. How y'all gonna have a good time? I love it when at least Penn State or Wisconsin would have a night game, because it's just the fact of the matter is, look, let's party during the day. Let's get everybody a little liquored up or whatever. On the Pass It Out show, we don't promote alcoholism or whatever.
No.
But regardless of that, people party and have a good time, and then nighttime comes, and that's when everything comes out. I love night games. It don't matter where it is, even in Tallahassee. I love
Yeah.
night games. That's just me. So for CBS to not touch, I'm happy, man. I'm really happy. So now LSU, and I know it's a guarantee that ESPN and ABC, any LSU home games is gonna be night. They're putting them at night. Very few times it's gonna be a 4:30 game or 5:30. But they're gonna put them Tigers at night at home. Love it, bro. That's the thing, man. You know what I'm saying? So, bro, but at the same time, it was good to have Herb.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had to talk about the Algiers history a bit since he's from
Yes,
the
sir.
area and stuff like
Yes,
that. You
sir.
know what I'm saying? We went deep into it tonight, ladies and gentlemen. We went deep into it.
Yeah,
And
he stole my question. He stole my question. It's okay though.
what question I stole
I
from
was
you?
asking about the merger and then the split with
Oh,
Pro
yeah,
Walker.
yeah,
Just now I'm
yeah.
gone. I had that one, but now it's all good, ladies and gentlemen. It's
Well,
all good.
well, it's good to really ask him about all that, because that's your alma mater that's kind of not to an existence no more,
Exactly.
which is sad to me. It really is sad, because some people try to use it as a loophole because of the fact, well, O.P.W Walker was a slave master. I'm like, I understand that, and I understand certain Caucasians went there in the beginning when was there. Okay. But we're not talking about those people. We're talking about the people that went to O.P.W Walker in the 80s to the 90s. We're talking about their era. We're not talking about that era, but it is what it is. We know the alumni still exist and everything else. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what's worse, but that's not worse than Fauché. That's not worse than what
Oh
Fauché went
no,
through.
not worse than full
Like,
shit.
like, like, dude. Like I said, it like no disrespect to the Willow School, no disrespect to the Willow School, but that's still LC freaking Fauché, and it's sad that they cannot get their name back like the other names had got their name back. I remember I got into a debate with somebody when they changed the Lake Area New Tech name to Kennedy.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like, why are you going to change the name? I'm like, these people freaking suffered to try to get their tradition back.
Mm-hmm.
Let it go. Let it die. These people want their name back. Aberson got their name back. I don't know when the MLK change is going to happen, because the Lawless name is coming back.
Yeah.
So it's the fact of the matter is the traditions are coming back. And that's what it is. You know what I'm saying? I hope to God O.P.W Walker can come back in a way of full shape, but I don't know if that's going to even happen. But it's sad that these schools, because there have been some legendary great people that came from those institutions, and
Yeah.
it's a crying shame. And I'm
Yep.
saying that probably that just shows how much of a person and a humble man I am. That's from 2600 EP Tour. I'm a humble person because I know so many people outside of St. Aug, outside of Shaw. I know people that went to John Mack, people that went to Kennedy, people that went to Clark. I mean, so many good people. And the people that gone through a lot in their lives through that school, stuff getting held back, all this other stuff. I felt bad for a lot of these people because they went through some hellified issues that they should never have gone through. I wish they would have it fair, like we had it in private schools.
Mm-hmm.
That's just being real.
VK,
Yes,
tell the
sir.
fans who we have on the show tomorrow night.
Well, tomorrow night, ladies and gentlemen, we haven't got any other invitations to answer for Legends Month. This will be our last Legend Month interview tomorrow. We have Jai Eugene Sr. from formerly Destrehan Wildcats, who is an alumni, but also he's on the coaching staff for the defending state champions. So he'll be coming on, the former LSU Tiger. We will talk to him about his playing career and what made him have his choice to go to LSU, because he'll definitely break down the night that he had to make one of the most biggest decisions he had to make. And it was a last minute one, too. So he's going to share a lot of his story with that and his time at the LSU Tigers. And also, he'll probably talk a little bit about his son, who has really blossomed and he's going to make a big impact for the Tulane Green Wave. And big news coming from Tulane. And I know I sent it to you in your messenger. Carter Sheridan, who was the receivers, I believe, not the receivers coach, but one of the offensive coaches at LSU. He is coming back home to New Orleans to take the running backs position at Tulane. So congratulations going to Carter Sheridan, my Purple Knight brother, who will be coming home to New Orleans. We're going to try to have him on the show hopefully soon.
Yep.
Carter Sheridan is a great story in itself, ladies and gentlemen. I'm talking about, if you look at his resume, it's unbelievable. You would think he should have a head coaching job somewhere. Really, you got to look at his resume, and we're going to have him on the show soon because he's a great story in itself in the world of football, of what he took a journey from being maybe number 2 or 3 on the depth chart at St. Aug to being a starter at Florida A&M, and then all of a sudden getting into coaching and administration over the years from NFL football to college. He's an amazing story. We're going to have him on soon. But Carter Sheridan, LSU to the Tulane Green Wave, and I think I think that's going to be good for you because I know you're a season ticket holder, my friend.
That's right. Ladies and gentlemen, also starting next week, we are having sports writers from across the state join us on this show to give us their take on the local high school football teams in their areas. So get ready. We gonna have a lot of info for y'all starting next week up until August 10th. We're giving y'all a whole lot. Also, we're back Tuesday for sure, Wednesday and Thursday next week with our sports writers. But there's a possibility, and I'm waiting on an answer, that we may have 2 players from a certain school, I'm not saying who they are yet, join us on this show on Monday night. So we are waiting for that answer. We got the permission from the head coach. Now we're waiting for these guys to give us the answer. And if they do, we will have a special show on Monday with these 2 players. Not saying any names, not saying what high school they're from. But just know they are 2 of the best players in the state of Louisiana. I think
That's
my BK Jones would agree with that also.
Yes, yes, yes. 2 very good players. And the only hint I'm gonna give you, and I'm not gonna give nothing away. All I'm gonna tell you is this: defending state champions. You don't know who they are. You don't know which champion, but defending state champs. That's the only hint I'm going to give you. We're not gonna give nothing away. That's the only hint you get. And also coming up soon, we're gonna have NFL previews. We got a special guest gonna be coming up for that. We're gonna also have college football previews as well. We're hoping we're probably gonna get 2 top play-by-play people in college football to join us, and it's going to be big. One of them has no problem, wants to come on the show. The other, I'm going to make sure I get some info to her. Yes, it's a she. Not going to give it away who it is. But at the same time, these 2 are great broadcasters in itself, and we're hoping to have them. We'll have a guest for the NFL as well. But we got a lot coming up, my friend. We got a lot coming up, and we got a lot to work on. So trust me, Hash It Out shows continuing to grow. We're going everywhere. And plus, we possibly might have maybe merch, possibly. We'll see. But we got a lot brewing. We got a lot brewing, teaming up with the minds of myself, Jared JB, our leader, and George Peppers. You don't know what's about to come out of this thing. We might be as big as the pivot.
Too stupid. For my
Eat your heart
man,
out,
Herb,
Ryan Clark.
crazy. My man Herb Tyler, for my man right here, VK Jones. I'm JB, a sports guy. We thank y'all for tuning in with us. We're back Tuesday for sure, Wednesday and Thursday, and
Tomorrow.
maybe Monday. So other than that, thank y'all for tuning in. Y'all
Don't
take
forget
care.
tomorrow, 8 o'clock.
Tomorrow, 8 o'clock.
Ja
That's right.
Eugene.
Eugene Senior.
Ja Eugene.
Y'all take